I'm Darcey.
And I'm Stacey.
We're two busy moms and wives who dream of making it in showbiz.
Today we're exposing the truth on how Darcey and Stacey faked their way to fame and riches.
There's always a double dose of drama in our world. Welcome to the Twin Life.
You guys, there is so much to their story than what they want us to know. Like, I can't even believe how much Darcey and Stacey faked over the years to kind of become famous. They have one of the craziest backstories of any 90 Day Fiance stars. You will not believe all the bizarre things that they have done and how much money they've wasted to try to become famous. So guys, I don't want to waste any more time. Here is the deal. So as you know, Darcey and Stacey are obviously some of the biggest stars, I don't know how, but to come out of 90 Day Fiance. They're some of the only people on the show to really get their own spin-off, the Darcey and Stacey show, which is currently on its 3rd season, which once again, I don't know how, but trust me when I tell you that it has actually taken them actual decades to get to this point in their lives. I mean, they have been trying to make it big for ages, so ending up on 90 Day Fiance was by no means an accident for them. I mean, I know guys, crazy, isn't it? I mean, they really tried everything to see what would stick, even though nothing really took off until Darcey got on 90 Day Fiance.
Today we're gonna do the Terrence J event for the 106 and Park Toys for Tots. We bumped in free.
But first, you guys, I want to start at the beginning with Darcey and Stacey because apparently they were super unpopular when they were in school. I mean, they had curly hair and thick glasses and all of that kind of stuff, and supposedly people actually weren't very nice to them and would call them troll dolls. Now, Darcey and Stacey both said that this was obviously super hard for them, and they said it really affected their self-esteem, and I really can, see that. I personally think that is what probably started them on their crazy journey to wanting to become famous. Like, maybe they felt they had something to prove, but anyway, the obsession with fame definitely came later on too. Around the time they went to college, they were both working as waitresses at, nowhere else but Hooters for a bit during this time, but soon after they sort of just, stopped working. They just became obsessed with the idea of wanting to become famous, and they have never really had an actual job ever since then. Like, sure, technically, they had a lot of different, quote-unquote careers, but nothing really ever took off, and most of it was just paid off by their dad. So pretty much, their dad spent decades from the time they were in college until Darcey ended up on 90 Day Fiance, funding their bizarre, random dreams of them trying to get famous, and it honestly only gets weirder from here. So if you ever watch anything with Darcey and Stacey, you'll know they love to look like they're super rich and famous, and they have all this money and cars and living their best lives, but it's actually not true, you guys. So they've always loved to pretend that they're super rich and fancy, but in reality, their dad has been bankrolling their lives. So you might have seen him on the show, their dad, but actually he's been on it quite a bit. I mean, he's a pretty interesting and successful guy, but I have no idea why he's enabled his daughters like he has. I mean, it seems like he must just be a really intelligent guy, but then, he has these 2 fame-hungry daughters who never really did anything. I mean, the only thing I can think of is, after Darcey and Stacey's, brother passed away tragically, their dad started going over the top with them, taking care of them because he missed his son so much. So obviously, I have no idea if that's for sure. It's just a theory, but that's the only thing I can really kind of make any sense with. And anyway, their dad is named Mike. He's on the show all the time. He's really been, behind Darcey and Stacey with everything that they've done, at least financially. When you Google him, it says that his job is an owner of a production company, but, that could not be further from the truth. So sure, he owns a production company, but the production company's entire purpose was pretty much to make Darcey and Stacey famous. So in reality, that's not where the guy makes his money at all, or he made his money. He actually has a really, really, really good, just regular job. If you go on his LinkedIn, he's the chairman at the largest international engineering, procurement, and construction management service provider in China. So the company deals with so many things like oil, gas, mineral resources, chemicals, power, and a bunch more, and Mike is actually the chairman. So it's pretty clear that he's doing really well for himself from his job, more than likely not from the production company, but Darcey said on the show that their dad usually spends a ton of time in China, like most of the year, and it has been this way for the last 20 plus years. And it kind of just seems like a lot of his life is actually in China. He has a fiance there, and he usually only visits the girls during the holidays. Well, technically, he's been over in America for quite a while now because of the pandemic, which has probably been really great for the family, and apparently apparently he is actually retiring soon, so he'll probably be able to spend more time with everyone. So maybe that's part of the reason why Mike has been spending so much money on Darcey and Stacey. It seems like he's always been a bit absent from their lives, even when they were younger. I mean, he is clearly a super driven guy, and he's probably had to work a lot most of his life, so chances are he was rarely actually physically there for them, even before he was going to China. So maybe that's why he's always been so willing to fund everything the twins wanted to do. Maybe he was just trying to make up for the time he couldn't actually spend with them. I don't really know, what do you guys think? But either way, he's even said that now he's retiring and he'll be able to spend more time with his grandkids, which he would just love to do, especially since he hasn't been able to really do that with his own kids. So I definitely think that's why he gave Darcey and Stacey all that money. And let's be honest, I mean, being a chairman for a company this big probably made him a ton of money, which is how he can likely afford to pay for, honestly, a bunch of random stuff for Darcey and Stacey that they've come up with, throughout the years. And they've done a lot of different things. Like, they had their own clothing brand for a while. I mean, technically, they kind of still have it, I guess. It's called, House of 11, and they do kind of sell stuff to this day, but it's never really been that successful as far as I can see. I mean, it might be just a little bit more successful now because it is, on the show and whatnot, but they've had this brand for years and it never really took off. And even their dad, Mike, said on the show, they never did anything with it. And, you can absolutely bet that Mike has been paying for everything for that along the way out of his own pockets. But they definitely did not stop at, trying to break into fashion. Obviously, we all know that they're, as reality TV stars, but 90 Day Fiance was not their first attempt at reality TV fame. Before their TLC show, they also tried to create their own reality TV show called The Twin Life, and it was supposed to be a show about all of them and their day-to-day lives as twins with, their then husbands and their kids involved too, and it took like months to shoot. This is way back in 2010, and if you've never heard of it, it's because literally no one cared. It never got picked up, and it just kind of sort of died off. But once again, just imagine how much money likely went into that. I mean, it took like months to film, and they would have had to pay the crew working on it and everything, and also the people that presumably worked on it for post-production. So, funding a reality show is just by no means cheap. So that's a lot of money too when you think about it, and these people would have had to be paid. And obviously, we can guess who all paid for it. Mike, Darcey and Stacey's dad. So, it's just, once again, it's like the guy is just funding everything. It never took off. So money down the drain for poor Mike, and the honest, just time wasted. So anyway, you guys, you'd think that they would eventually stop, wasting their dad's money, or that he would at least tell them to go, enough is enough, right? But I mean, on the show, Mike plays the role of a guy who's pretty straightforward with his daughters, and he gives them relationship and business advice, and he says it like it is. But, then at the same time, he's paying all of these things for ages, and now Patrick, bankrupting himself practically along the way. I mean, I know he is super successful, but can you even imagine how much of his money he got wasted on Darcey and Stacey? Like, why was he even doing all of that? And I really feel like he just wanted to give them everything because he kind of sort of felt guilty. I mean, on one hand, it's kind of nice of him. He's clearly a supportive dad, but at the same time, isn't it kind of just taking it a bit far? I mean, shouldn't he have just cut them off at some point? Or, I mean, shouldn't they have just tried harder to make something work with the stuff that their dad's already given them? I mean, it just doesn't seem right that he's been pouring all of this money into them just so they can get famous, and that really just seemed to be their end goal this whole entire time here. It's like they just wanted to become famous. They don't really care about what they do as long as people know about them, or at least that's what it looks like to me. I mean, they tried fashion, they tried reality TV, but they also tried, to have singing careers. They recorded this horrible song called Lock Your Number, which I'm sorry if Darcey and Stacey's watching, but the song is absolutely awful, like literally a terrible song. And so, I mean, they also did some backing vocals in a movie that their own production company produced. And let's be honest here, it's like that production company isn't that successful either. And it just really seems like Darcey and Stacey were so desperate to try anything to become famous, but it just wasn't working. And ironically, that production company has made 2 movies so far. The first one was White Tea, which they made in 2013, and that is the one where Darcey and Stacey did some backing vocals for, which again, brought them no fame whatsoever because of course it just, didn't. And then they produced another movie in 2015 called Soul Ties, which was, based on a novel named Soul Ties or whatever. So, and let's be super clear here, not only did the movies not help them become famous, but they were also pretty bad movies. Soul Ties has a 5 out of 10 stars rating on IMDb, and that's the better one of the two. White Tea has a 4.7 stars, so yes, pretty terrible. I mean, I feel bad saying this, but it's just the truth. But anyway, guys, it's pretty clear that Darcey and Stacey have just been super desperate this whole time, and I really don't think there's ever been anyone on the show that is so clearly desperate for the fame like these two were. I mean, they've really been trying to become famous for decades now, and their dad has just been funding all of it. Like I said, I really don't get why he's doing, it for so long. I mean, they now have their own TLC show, so I guess it kind of did work, but I just don't think that all that money money was really worth it. Like, they've basically done nothing on their own their entire lives, at least not money-wise, and it really seems like kind of a weird parenting. Like, even their house is something that he helped them buy. Like, they lived in a 5,000 square foot house with 6 bedrooms and bathrooms, and it's like, he helped them pay for that. And before that, they were living in Connecticut in a different house, which, let's be honest, he for sure helped them pay for it too. So I don't, think they've really ever paid for anything themselves. Definitely not before Darcey got in the 90 Day Fiance, and even that didn't make them a lot. So it's like, the pay on the show is very poor. It's not very decent, but it's pretty well known that it didn't make, you rich or anything like you pretend that they are. So I think nowadays Darcey and Stacey likely have a little bit more money just because of their spin-off show and everything, but their dad did still supposedly help them buy the newer house, so it's not like they can be that rich either, which is really the whole point here. It's like, let's be honest, they try to make themselves look super successful and rich, but it's just not true. They aren't poor or anything, but they just aren't as rich and glamorous and as famous and everything as that they pretend to be. And in reality, it's their dad who's just been funding everything this entire time, and honestly, you guys, I feel really bad for the guy. I don't think he's ever getting that money back. There's just absolutely no way. And he was, the one that helped them fake their way to fame, but it took years, and I don't really think he's ever going to get anything in return. So guys, crazy story with Darcey and Stacey, how they faked their way to fame. Basically, the answer is Mike, their dad. Well, guys, thank you all so much for watching. If you are new to this channel, if you enjoyed this video, please do me a huge favor, hit that like, follow, share, subscribe button, and y'all better stay tuned for many more videos.